Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here today for this panel with our common project, the Next Generation Designers. Today, we have a really, really nice group. We have Tobias Trubenbacher, Luis Escayen, Aura Morillo, y Celia Marchesson.
Yes.
All right. And my name is Mariano Alessandro. I'm going to be the moderator today. I'm from Index. Let's begin with the introduction. We need to do this. Who is who? Tobias, super short.
Yeah, I'm Tobias. I come from Germany. I studied industrial design in Munich and then product design at the University of the Arts in Berlin, where I graduated a bit more than 1 year ago. And then I went to Konstantin Gricic Design, who you might know, and I was working there as a designer. And now I'm back at university right now, and I'm studying 2 masters in architecture and in urban design right now at the Technical University in Munich.
All right. Luisa?
Yeah, hi, I'm Louisa from Norway. I studied design in London, both my undergrad at Goldsmith and then my postgrad at the RCA and Imperial. And my interests are sustainability and working with materials. And I'm currently a co-founder of Resting Reef together with Aura. And my role is head of product and sustainability.
Aura.
Hello, everyone. My name is Aura. I'm a Mexican designer, trained as an industrial designer from the National University in Mexico City. And then I moved here to London, where I'm living, to the RCA. As Luisa said, we did a master's together with also Imperial College London. And we co-founded Resting Reef, that it's a project where I'm in charge of service design and also experience design.
All right. And Celia?
And my name is Celia. I'm a French designer based in London, where I freshly graduated from the Royal College of Art in design products. Before that, I studied in France for my BA, industrial design. And during my master journey, I gave a special focus for social impact, well-being and women-centered design. And I developed Muse, which is a collection of tools for sex education, women healthcare.
All right. Nice introduction. So we have here 4 designers, right? You could be working with designing anything, but you have all chosen to use design for good, use design to improve people's life. What is it that brought you close to this? Why social issues? Why sustainability? Go.
I can start. Well, I grew up with a mother that is working with human rights and my father who was an engineer. And I think that since I was very little, I kind of looked into both of these worlds. From the side of engineering, I decided to move to design. And also since they gave me the opportunity to study abroad. And while we're studying abroad, I met a lot of people that I learned from. And I understood the privilege that I had from being there, the opportunity that I had. So while studying my master's, I realized that I was very interested in creating solutions or working in topics that were emotionally charged, but at the same time that had a shift of the perspective of how we currently see the world. And I think that this came from this reward of challenging certain perspectives and seeing that, there is this other community that in the end are looking for better solutions from not working in this world. So I think that also with the project of the development of my views from the master's to what I'm doing now.
All right. And you, Tobias?
Yeah, I think from the very beginning of my studies, actually, I always came back to the issue of climate change and sustainability, because I think it's just the the most important topic right now. That should be the most important topic for everyone. And besides, I'm also, for example, I'm spokesman of the Green Youth in Berlin, which is like the young Green Party, which is a bit more, even more working in the fields of politics for climate issues and a bit more left wing than the old party, I would say. And I try to combine this political work also with my creative work as a designer. And yeah, I think it's like a red thread that go through all my projects, these issues of sustainability.
Yeah. What about you, Celia?
I was thinking while listening all the answers. I think in general, I was a creative child, but I also carried a lot of values, like even quite young, in what I was doing. And I knew that being a designer would involve like high responsibility towards planet or towards society. And I think that's why, as Tobias said, that's the most important topic right now and should always be the priority, sustainability and social impact. So I think I always try to bring this back to my work and to kind of carry those really important value towards society and my creativity on the side and to move forward and to kind of like grow and evolve with them, because I think we need to grow and evolve with them because everything is changing quite fast. Yeah.
What about you, Luise?
Yeah, so me personally, everything I'm very passionate about is somehow linked closely to nature, like sports or working with materials, plants, food, animals, hiking. And in my design practice, I've always tried to guide myself towards the things I'm passionate about, because then it comes this like natural drive within. But then there's this other side of like we see for consumers that can afford being sustainable, there's just a certain percentage of the world. And I think the same kind of maybe goes with being a designer dedicated, like becoming a designer, first of all, but also dedicating a career to injustice and climate change. Is that if you have the capacity to do it, then you should do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think this is a really important thing that you said, consumers that can afford being sustainable. Because probably a lot of people also want to, but they can't. So this is where you guys come in, right? What do you how do you see with your classmates, for example, in university? Is it a common thing? Do they also feel like this, or?
Can I just firstly want to say to what you just said, that people can afford to be sustainable? I would say that these people are still a lot less sustainable in their lifestyle than many people who cannot afford to be sustainable. So also us 4 or 5 speaking here today, I think our lifestyle and our our habits are still a lot more destroying the planet than many other people, and we should also think about this maybe today.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Is this what is keeping you up at night? What is keeping you up at night? What is the main thing? Would you say it's this, Tobias?
For me,
I can start.
Go.
I
So
think
you
it's
break
about
it.
not being listened. Like I think if I talk about my work, feminism, or opening a conversation about body and sexuality or sustainability, it has been out there for quite a long time. But still, it seems that everything is so slow and changing not fast enough. So I think also a lot of frustration of having all those great ideas out there, but nothing really happening, or like this idea of impact not being big enough and fast enough. I think that's what keeps me up at night at the moment.
Yeah, it's true.
I can also agree with that. I think I'm personally also very moved not only with sustainability, with risk, but also with inequality. And female founders, that sometimes the industry is not really willing to put money to female entrepreneurs. So we kind of decided that as part of that, we also wanted to challenge what is happening, and we decided that we wanted to be a woman-led and woman-empowered business. So in a way, it's also kind of combining not only the topic of sustainability, but also something that we believe that should be something that we are developing in current industries.
So the thing that keeps me up at night is that I am genuinely concerned about the fact that the next generations most likely will not have all the opportunities and appreciate that they are taking for granted today. But then also when it comes to like our business, it's like, how can we create an overall positive impact with everything we do? Of course, it's very hard to be perfect, but those are things that kind of keeps me up at night.
No, I think for me it's a bit the same, and it's maybe also that it's just so few time that we have left. Like we have right now 6 years left until we have 1.5 degrees more than before industrial time, and that's just, it's like a blink of an eye, and maybe that it's so urgent that maybe keeps me up at night most.
Yeah. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. But okay, you see now, you have this group of skills, right? You have this set of skills. Like with great power comes great responsibility. So how can you use them? How do you see yourself applying what you know to change the way things are going?
I think for me, it's about never working alone. Always collaborating with people with different skills. I believe that we can't make any impact if we just stay with our own baskets of tools. We need to keep going, to keep talking and involving more people. Otherwise, there would be no impact. I think that would be the way I would tackle it in my process.
What do you think, Laura?
I think, yes, also acknowledging that design has this great power for problem solving, and also to be able to kind of look into different ways of, creating creative solutions that in a way can maybe face their problems in a different way. I feel that designers have this huge potential of becoming leaders as well, and kind of also challenging and looking into different ways where we can do things that right now haven't been working in our society.
And Tobias, what do you think?
Yeah, for me it's a bit the same, like Celia said, that I think the biggest power really lays in interdisciplinarity. That's also the reason why I now went back to an academic context at university to also study, like in a larger scale, urban design, architecture, to really can work in this field, like to zoom out and then have multiple disciplines, and also to collaborate with other disciplines. And that's also why a context like a university is maybe super, or has a lot of power in this context, because there are so many different disciplines under one roof together, and you can really go to the next building and then talk to the scientists, and then go to the next building and talk to socialists and so on. So yeah, I think there lies a huge potential to go out of your bubble and collaborate.
And
Yeah.
you think?
Yes, I would agree with the things that have been said. I think designers have this incredible skill of seeing like complexity beyond the one problem, or hopefully a lot of designers are now being taught to think this way at least. And something I find a bit sad is that all of these amazing ideas and proposals and concepts that designer comes up with, unfortunately, just stays as concepts instead of being invested in, or designers being more motivated to actually bring it forward, even though the idea might be very outside of the box thinking. But that's basically what we need these days, because things need to systematically change.
Yeah. And now that we're talking about this, and yes, designers have the skills to solve, but designers have also had the skills to create where we are now, right? Or the consumers. And when I asked you before, so how do you see yourself with, like, when you're in a class, when you're in university? What about your peers? Are they also in the same frequency? Which also connects. Do you think that your generation has, is generally more like woke and going into these causes, or do you feel yourself, like you're the weird ones that are actually going into this? But what's your look on the, on the people your age that are working with design, or perhaps in different, in other disciplines? Do you feel that everybody is, or many people really want to have a change?
Well, I would say that with globalization and social media, like, our generation has like access to more information than ever before, which you could say more people are woke or aware of what's going on. But like, being woke is one thing, but taking action is another thing. Like, you need both of them to actually make a change happen. You can't just sit at home and say like, oh, it's horrible what's going on, and then not doing anything about it. And I know a lot of designers who are also very comfortable with, doing the design that they feel passionate about. If it's a smaller thing, decorating a home or a jewelry, or I don't know, websites and these things, and that's also okay. Not everyone needs to kind of deal with the larger problem, because it can be very daunting at times.
I think I want to jump in on what Louise and Ora said about the fact of having great ideas out there, but not having the support to push this concept further. And I think, based on my experience with the Royal Court of Art, I think the tricky thing is that I think you can get help to push ideas out there, but not often. And at the same time, with education being that expensive and not accessible, it's also creating a really tricky tension between having the values and the ideas and the vogue of doing good, and being trapped in paying back studies, or being trapped in an industry that is not really helping us to make good, and having to pay back things by working for companies that we would have not thought about working with, but having to, because we were not giving. I think there are a few schools now. I think the RCA is holding the values and is kind of like helping us developing it, but at the same time, because of money issue and not being like equal and accessible, it's creating the reverse when everyone is getting out there in the industry. I don't know if it makes sense what I said, but
yeah,
I hope it did.
Yes.
Yeah, that's interesting, because that's such a big difference, for example, to the design education in Germany, because here it's free to study. And I always had a bit the same feeling, like you just talked about, that many people from university where they just have to pay a lot to study, their whole thinking is really somehow a bit different. It's but much more about how to make money sometimes, and whereas university should be like this free space where you can think and work without all this financial frames, and a bit, it should be like a free space to think beyond this, maybe. But I don't know how this could work.
Yeah, I was also part of the RCA with Silvia and Luisa, and it was also like I can relate to that. I would say that in global innovation design, the program where we were at, people are genuinely interested in these type of topics, and we were a small cohort, but that also made us able to kind of discuss between us. And when there was, for example, some kind of tension between different points of views, that also created the opportunity to look for different solutions, or kind of look into the topics and create ideas from it. So I think that it's also really important, this thing of being able to have a community and being able to bounce ideas and challenge each other. I really believe in the power of challenging perspectives, because when there is this thing where you are not all monotonous with the same ideas, then progress can take place, and creativity in a way is also a perfect tool for it.
Ahora, since you have the connection with Latin America, I'm just following a little bit, but do you also see this the same generation of people that you see here in Europe? Do you also see it in Mexico? Do you see that people are like, hey, we need to do something about it?
Definitely. I have a small sister that is living in Mexico City, and I can see how also her generation is super aware of the problems that are happening, and also fighting against, climate change and also inequalities. There's also people, she's also within a circle of university, so I also kind of see it in that perspective. But there is also all of these examples from indigenous communities in Mexico and Brazil that are also fighting, for their territories. There is this example of the Amazonas, for example, and that is also something that in a way empowers people living in the city, and kind of also create this community of supporting these people that are fighting towards big corporations or inequalities that are happening within society.
Yeah, it's true. And it's interesting to think that, going back to the skills that designers are developing or have developed, and how can we use all these skills in the years to come? How do you think the role of the designer? I mean, yes, it is by producing, but it's also communication, communicating to the rest of what's going on, right? How do you see yourselves in the years to come? I mean, as designers tackling these problems.
I mean, I'm not sure if I understood the question, but I would talk about more than communication. I would talk about education.
Mm-hmm.
I think we as designer, directly or indirectly, we have the power to educate people around us at a small scale, family or friends or colleagues, but then also other potential people like kids or teens, even adults. So I think relating to this idea of communication, I will speak about how design can educate and raise ideas and gather around common values and goals that everyone can reach at their scales.
Yeah, I would agree, and I would also add that the design discipline has to change in a way. For example, like most of us studied product design, and we have already so many products out there, so much stuff, and it needs to change in a way that it's not always about creating an object and then putting it out there in the world, but more about, as you just said, communication, education, or immaterial aspects.
So you see the role of the designer evolving also into an educator.
Yeah. So I hopefully see designers in leader roles in the future, because a lot of design education, they teach you to think strategically or be like strategists, to think complexity. And we need people who see the whole picture, not just thinking profits, but also thinking who might we impact, and how can we kind of come up with a solution or an idea that nudge things in the right direction. And hopefully more designers can have a seat at the table with the CEO and the CFO, etc., in the future. And we should also kind of promote ourselves into that space more as kind of an essential person on the board.
Yeah, building up into what Tobias said, this idea of, I really like this idea of shifting from being only product focused to also experience focused. I think also people, the way that society has evolved, are also looking for experiences in their lives and not only owning stuff. And this is also very much connected with sustainability and how can we create systems, or how can we create solutions that are intangible for people, but at the same time that create value. And I also see designers as these key stakeholders to be able to make sense of information, to understand consumers, and also deliver tailored solutions. And with this thread in a way with technology, I see that designer has this important role of being able to connect emotionally with people and also understand the complexity of what this world can be. So in a way, I feel that technology is going to be a tool for us to be able to deliver better solutions. I don't see a replacement of designer. I see designers more like a key role in the future to be able to connect the human part of things with the world, technology, etc.
Yeah, you said that you would like to have designers more in leading roles, and for me, that's a bit, or I would disagree a bit, because I think we just need to move more away of this hierarchy, and that there are people in leading positions, and then also of this mindset that design can save the world alone, and that it has so much power than other disciplines. I would disagree with this. I think all disciplines are important in this issue and have to play a role. And it's not about only designers, it's also about, I don't know, economics, about climate scientists, about psychologists. Everyone is important. And I would say it's just, yeah, we should move away from hierarchies in companies, and also in general in this goal of saving the world. And I think design is important without any question in this regard, but it's not like it can save the world alone. And I would even say that it's not much more powerful than other disciplines. And I think it's a bit problematic that so many panels right now are always about this. Design can really change the world and change it all to the better, because that's the last years, it's always about this issue, and it's a bit of phrase. I don't know. I think it can't do it alone.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like with our course that we did, the global innovation design, like we had psychology modules, for example. We had financial models. We had all kinds of modules that were not, this is the color you pick, or this is the right aerodynamic form, or this makes the most efficient manufacturing technique. I don't think we ever had those kind of topics at all. It was more to teach us to be critical and kind of be responsible. And we need kind of people who are, unfortunately, as you said, there is this kind of hierarchy, leader roles. And the question is like, why haven't designers had kind of the invites to be part of those decisions before? And maybe, designers can think of a whole new way of structuring a business and politics and society. But you need a bit of people like grassroots, and you need a little bit of people from above that are allowing these to kind of meet and let go of that strong hierarchy as you're talking about.
I would add that it's also about everyone being nobles based on what they can do. So I think I get the point of like bringing designer more into the conversation as equal kind of like constellation in those conversations. But I think it's also about having the tools to talk about this. I think like you mentioned, you had like kind of like platforms to speak about psychology or economic, but I think that does not replace experts. I think it's about everyone being able to talk together and having the right vocabulary and the right foundations, but also being able to stay on our side and being able to understand that's my expertise and I need someone else's expertise to move forward. I need to have the tools to approach them, but at the same time, I need to accept that I can't do that by my own, even though I was given some tools. It's about like having everyone working as a team and end of a strategy, but being able to say, okay, that's not my part now. I need other people on board. So I think everyone's kind of like agreeing somehow. It's just different. It's like different vision about hierarchy or team dynamic, I would say.
Exactly. Maybe that's what I meant. Like designers are being taught to work in a team, listen to all the experts in the different field and kind of figure out how do we puzzle all of this together. And so it's a natural kind of dynamic in the field, I would say. So maybe that's what we need, that kind of interdisciplinary leadership where everyone are heard and it's not like, well, I am the CEO or like I am the CFO and I know what's best. But consider all of them because all of them have legit kind of reasoning and perspective to bring to the table.
But I think what I would add is that I think as you said, for us, it's more natural to kind of like navigate through different topics. But I think society in its own is not completely ready to understand what is design. Like if I talk about my personal life, my family or people around, like few of them understand it, and I think it's quite often undervaluated. So I think if we join those kind of like big conversation and multidisciplinary conversation about having people being able to listen and understand the skill we have, because sometimes it's still not the case. And like how often I heard weird things about what design is and that, oh, being a designer is making nice things. Or I think there are still a lot of people uninformed about the variety of things we can do. And I think it's linked to what Tobias said about we studied product design and people think we do products and we do toast grill and I don't know, vacuum cleaners and then we are kind of like reduced to this box and it's really hard for us to go out of this sticker they put on our head to get to more serious topics, I think.
I mean, there is a change in design that it has moved away. I mean, people still have the perception of design from 30 years ago or 20 years ago, right? And this is also what I was saying about the role of the designer is also part of the education and the education of also just like a self-marketing, educating the consumer to understand what design can do, right? That is not just creating white teacups, right? But I mean, I'm going to continue. We could be forever talking, but we have a time. What do you feel the pressure to solve these pressing issues, and how do you manage that?
I think that for sure the pressure is there because it's something that is happening, and as Tobias was saying, it's an urgent problem when we talk about sustainability, for example. But I also think that with every pressure and kind of by taking this challenges, it always comes a reward. Of course, it's not easy to work on these topics. And sometimes, in the case of resting reef, we inherently decided to go with the challenge of working with death and oysters and creating something related that in a way, when we talk about it, people are like, what is this? Like, I'm not getting it. But I think that we are able to, by having both of us working in this project, we are able to look into the positive side of uncertainty and be able and also motivated to work towards what we are aiming. And that is also something interesting. I wouldn't see it as a negative thing. in a way when that is something that motivates you to do something about it and act on it.
What do you think, Tobias?
Yeah, I definitely also feel this pressure a lot, often, and sometimes it's super depressing, and sometimes I'm like also a bit hopeless about if we can still change things. But then for me, it really helps often to also speak to others and work together in groups and motivate each other to keep on working in this field and for this aim. I think there lies really a lot of power in to form groups and then motivate each other and invite others to join and to have this group dynamics.
Yeah, I think I would join you on that. That is kind of like heavy time where it's kind of easy to be depressed or demotivated. And I think if I use my reasonable thinking, I still believe that I'm not that hopeful in general. But as I said, so many good ideas out there and so slow to implement them. And I'm not sure the deadline can be reached, but I think sometimes it's also good to be blindly hopeful and keep going and keep talking and pushing and do the best we can do with what we can do and see what it will lead us somehow.
And Luisa, your thoughts?
Yeah, so in my undergrad, I focused on fashion sustainability, and I think that was the first time I was introduced to wicked problems, and it was very overwhelming. And yeah, you get paralyzed because you're like, no matter what I do, it's not gonna solve this problem. And that made me kind of also learn and realize, talking with professors, you can't solve wicked problems, and I think that's like a healthy way of releasing that pressure on yourself. Be like, no, I can't solve this complex problem, like climate change, for example. You need all small solutions and interactions and things to kind of nudge it in the right direction that can move this big kind of sinking ship. Like, it is difficult, but I think like to punish yourself and saying like, oh, I'm not doing enough, or like, I'm not perfect, or like, am I a hypocrite because you eat certain things or you travel, but like, not punish myself for not being perfect. I think that's is very helpful, especially when you're dealing with these complex problems.
And there is a thing about these wicked problems that this hopelessness feeling can come when you think about it in a global way. No poverty. Well, how do we tackle that? But I think it helps if you translate that global thought to something local. How no poverty in Europe, no poverty in Europe, and a specific country, a specific region, a specific town. Things that you can, atomize as much as possible. And like you were saying, Luisa, then make a system of solutions. It helps with the desperation of what do we do now? Because you cannot solve something that is so big just with a group, but you can do a pack of solutions that can tackle it, right? So, it helps to make it smaller, even though it's a big problem, right? And we don't have a lot of time left. And I have a question that I know Tobias, it's going to be an interesting question, but how hopeful are you for the future? And do you think that design can save us in any way?
So should I start?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we
to
can
be
come
honest,
back afterwards.
Yeah. To be honest, I'm really not very hopeful about the future. I think in so many aspects, it's just not enough time left, and we will definitely cross some tipping points, and then things will get much worse as they are right now. If you look at all the climate studies that have been published the last month and years, it's always even going faster than expected and worse than expected. And yeah, I'm a bit hopeless in many points, but at the same time, we had also the opportunity to really see how fast change is possible. A few weeks ago, for example, the first studies of our CO2 emissions during the COVID pandemic were published, and it's enormous, the difference, and the emissions went down so fast and enormous. And this maybe gives me a bit hope that if everyone works together in this direction and for this goal, then change is happening or change is possible super fast. But we just need to start, and we didn't even really start yet.
And Luise?
Yeah, I don't think it will benefit me of not being hopeful, because it is basically my lifetime going forward. Like, yeah, it, like Tobias said, it looks quite dark. But I like to be hopeful, basically, and I'm currently putting all of my time, my money, my energy into building Resting Reef, which I hope can contribute in some way to a better future. So yeah, that's me.
I'll jump on that as well. I think I like to be hopeful, even though it's a little bit scary. I feel, as Tobias was saying, there is this there is this opportunity for change, and I think that in this change we can see a lot of innovation and a lot of design collaboration with other different fields such as science, policy making, and art. So I'm excited for these kind of things to happen. And yeah, also as Luisa, I'm dedicated to the project that we're working on, to hopefully be able to plant our small seed into what is happening now and be able to help our society in some way.
And lastly, Celia.
I think based on what I previously said and what Toby said, I think in overall, yeah, it's not that hopeful. So I would say, no, I don't think design can save the world, but I think it can definitely improve it. There is so many opportunities to impact small ecosystems and try every day to make change and impact. So I'm hopeful in kind of this micro scale, but the overall scale is quite dark. But I think, as Luisa said, being depressed and having dark thoughts about this won't move it further. So I think it's about trying to find hope somehow and continue and continue and continue. And maybe at the end it would have been, we would have made somehow something less worse than what it could have been in a way. And I think only this is already huge.
Yeah, that's so nice to listen to all of you. Like I said before, I will just continue, but yeah, we have a time. We have arrived at the end of this conversation. I think it has been really nice. I hope you have also enjoyed it. You four and also the people listening to us. So I will say thank you very much for this time. It was great having you here. Until next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I just want to say it made me really curious about all of your works, and I would definitely check it out as soon as I can today. And hopefully we could chat later. It would be great.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.